Is there like time? Yeah, we should get started. Okay. Okay. So, well, my name is David. Most of you probably know me already on IRC and on the mailing list. So I am an engineering manager at Canonical, so the company which develops the Ubuntu operating system along with the Ubuntu community. I'm here today with Alexander Abreu, so one of our lead engineers working on the Cordova port for Ubuntu as well, and with Thibaut also, who leads the marketing effort in the devices division. So, well, first, I would like to, just celebrate the new release of Ubuntu 16.04. So this is a long-term support release we just made. So that was end of April. And so that's the system we're going to run on for the next 4 years, the system we're recommending developers use, well, in particular to create applications for devices like the Ubuntu phone or Ubuntu tablet. One of the key elements of the 16.04 release is the start of our convergence story. The convergence features landed and is now available in one of the tablets you see here, where you can essentially plug the tablet onto to a monitor, and that turns your tablet into a complete desktop. The tablet then becomes like the keyboard and mouse, and you can enjoy Ubuntu wherever you go. Another key element of the 16.04 release also was the introduction of the Snappy architecture and system. So this is the continuation of the effort we started with the phones, where we created a new packaging system, and we're now extending that to Internet of Things, so like small devices like the Raspberry Pi, where we have this like slimmed down Ubuntu core, Snappy core system, which lets you build custom connected objects, for example, with the regular Ubuntu system.
It's the same operating system?
It is, yeah. So I'll get to that in.
A little bit later, but it's part of the things that we developed with the phone and with the mobile experience. So security-wise and also authentication, everything in terms of package and distribution was actually reused for Snappy. So the same technologies are being taken that have been developed with the phone and with the mobile experience are being taken to IoT and all those other systems.
Yeah. So it is the same Ubuntu, but we'll see that there are also some particular services, right? That is on a desktop. You don't necessarily have the same security level that you have on phones or tablets. So we launched a couple of new devices, the Meizu Pro 5 and the Aquaris M10, so one of which is here. And we're continuing to extend the lineup of devices running Ubuntu. Well, so Ubuntu for devices first, and to your question, yeah, this is the same Ubuntu distribution. That is, we take packages, we take the same technology that is in the Ubuntu Debian archive, and we'll create images specifically for those devices. One of the things that was specific to Ubuntu phones initially, and which now landed also on regular desktops, is the mere display server. So previously we were running the X11 system, and now we have a display server that runs directly on top of the hardware, and that mostly gets rid of the X11 legacy. So you have a more direct access to the hardware thanks to Mir. Another thing we have, which we started introducing, I think, a couple of releases ago, and which is now a key element of the Ubuntu system, is the Oxide webview. So this is based on Chrome, Blink, and that's specifically integrated with the Ubuntu system.
So think of it like the equivalent of Crosswalk, but for us. So we did
Yeah.
I talked with the guy yesterday. We did a lot of like things in common. So it's the same thing lifecycle was done. So we have pretty much the same stuff on top of Lincoln Chromium, except that we don't have exactly the same goals. So in the end, there's a few differences. And the thing that we do in the crosswalk doesn't allow as easily is to we plug our platform stuff directly on top of Link and Chromium. So yeah, so that's the Oxide project that we use. Basically, this is the project that actually backs up everything WebView and web related on the phone.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's what we do for Cordova.
Yeah.
Cordova, the WebView. This is the equivalent of the iOS WebView, whatever.
Right.
Oxide that we use.
Yeah. So to clarify also on the desktop, we still have like the regular Chromium build. We still have Firefox, for example. But however, we have also created a specific web browser application which uses Oxide, which uses Qt, and which can run directly on top of Mir. So a more like direct, lightweight approach.
Yeah.
Yep. So we do have app confinement. So that was a key element when we introduced the phone, and this is now getting it extends now to the rest of the platforms we support, desktops, tablets, and devices generally. So we have a new packaging system. So we created Click initially, and the follow-up technology is called Snap. So that's going to happen in a couple of months, in particular for Cordova applications developed for Ubuntu. We do have a strict application lifecycle, which means that, well, as you would expect on a mobile platform, your application is not running continuously. It can be stopped, it can be killed, it needs to react to events like this. We don't have general background support for applications yet. However, we do have a couple of system services that essentially, allow you to offload background processing.
The application lifecycle actually changes depending on the form factor. Obviously, on desktop, you don't need to be killed, for example, when you're being put away by the user. You're not concerned so much about the battery. So we swap the application lifecycle management backends depending on the form factor exactly. So on mobile, it's more restrictive, but on things like desktop, there's a bit less of a concern.
Yeah. And we do have a very secure system. So there are a few elements that set us apart from the rest of the mobile platforms. So this is App Armor. So essentially, applications are in silos; they cannot communicate with each other. We have a very strict also approval mechanism. That is, the user has to specifically approve the access to a particular resource when that resource is accessed. That is contrary to what Android was doing previously. You don't have to grant the application like tons of permissions initially. This is only when, for example, you request the location or you want to use an online account, an online identity, that the system then puts a trust prompt on screen. And
So the system basically takes over at this point, and so that the user knows that this is like the system that provides the security and everything. There's no way for the app to take over or to revoke the right to start. Yeah. So it's really on demand, basically.
And all of those applications are distributed via the Ubuntu App Store, so as Click and now Snap packages as well.
Yeah. So the apps basically the apps are packaged as clicks or snaps, and they basically target everything. The only caveat though is that the desktop at the moment by default is running Unity 7, which is the old desktop version, and the desktop doesn't recognize clicks yet. So the idea of convergence basically is to bring everything under the same roof. So Unity 8 at the moment is offered as a guest session, and Unity 8 you can install any kind of click that you can find in the App Store. Eventually the app needs to be responsive to the form factor, but yes, in this environment you can install it. So the click are meant to target anything.
And the snaps now, because
And
Click was
the snap is the next generation of clicks. Basically.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Whenever we say
Think of
Click,
like packages.
you can understand Click
The
and
name
now
was changed
snaps.
basically to account for the IoT kind of stuff. So we're going to come back to it later.
Yep. So as I was saying, we do have a couple of platform services. So one of them is the Content Hub. So this is via the Content Hub service that applications can exchange content between each other. And here the user is in control of exactly what gets transferred. We do have a download manager service. So, well, obviously that handles downloads. We do have a media hub service. So, well, this is how you do background audio playback typically, and play videos with hardware accelerated codecs. We do have a URL dispatcher mechanism whereby you can map an application to a particular URL type or a domain.
So yeah, so some of them are actually the reasoning behind, for example, the Content Hub is directly in relationship with the fact that every application is basically constrained. So when you want to exchange data, you cannot directly communicate with either the system or stuff like that. You have to request permission to do it to a third party, which is the Content Hub. And then this Content Hub offers you the options to open some sort of a peer-to-peer communication with another app. And then you end up being some sort of an exchange state between those two apps, but monitored by the US and monitored by all the security policies that we have, basically.
That's kind of like the scheme thing that they have on iOS.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And everything is based on content types. So yeah, every application defines the kind of content types that they export or want to import, what kind of resource that they own, and that kind of stuff. So depending on what you define, the system is going to behave differently.
So like a photo app can export
Right.
pictures.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then
Instagram can
it's going to, right, if you have a filter Instagram-like app, then you can define yourself as a handling of, image content type, and then the system is going to recognize you and offer you as an option for every app that needs to export its images, for example.
Well, and so we have a developer site where you can find more of those. So just to finish on the key platform services, so we do also have a push notification service, so which essentially lets you receive, filter small messages, and then lets you resume the app. And we do have the online accounts system, which essentially manages online identities for the user. Essentially for OAuth-based system, we do support also variants and less secure username password schemes. And here again, you see what a trust prompt, how a trust prompt lets the user select on demand at the right time whether to let an application use his identity or not.
In this specific case, this is an example that will happen when an application actually requests an access to a given identity, online identity for Gmail, for example. So then it requests that to the system. The system prompts an authorization prompt, which is this one, totally independently of the app itself. So the user prompts it or not, and then the app responds to get the information back and responds accordingly.
Yep. So you can find all of that and more on developerubuntu.com. So there are various sections dedicated to different form factors, including phones. So, well, I guess you guys know how Cordova works a little bit, but nevertheless, I'll just run through the various steps you can follow.
Exactly the same thing as other platforms.
Yeah.
Confirm it.
Almost, yeah. So there are a couple of things to know. So first, well, I was making the assumption that you were going to run something like, a Mac or a Windows system. So that is, you don't necessarily have to have an Ubuntu desktop ND to develop Cordova Ubuntu applications. Yet you do need a VM because all of our build system is still based on the availability of an Ubuntu runtime. So, well, I did a couple of experiments. So there are a couple of Vagrant boxes you can get started with. So there's just one that has been released with the new Xenial 64, 64-bit in that case, but Xenial being the latest LTS release of Ubuntu. And so, well, if you're familiar with Vagrant, you can very quickly have an Ubuntu environment ready. The box, I think, is weighing something like 100 megs or so. And then from there, there are a couple of more packages you can install from the Ubuntu archive. So right now, there are issues with the Vagrant release I was using. So yeah, that's the 1.8 or something, or 1.7, etc. And yeah, I needed to do a couple of things like etc hosts needing to contain the name, the host name of the machine actually. So, well, this is mostly because of the way Vagrant kind of reconfigures the system while it starts, and it has not caught up with the latest 1604 like elements we have here. If you do start from a 1404, that is the previous release, previous LTS release, I would expect Vagrant to be a lot more straightforward. However, now that this new LTS is out, we're going to release most of our new packages for this one, and including the Cordova packages. So, well, assuming you do have an Ubuntu VM running after all of this, we now have a set of packages you can install. So one of them is the Ubuntu SDK API. So what it contains is essentially all of the libraries and header files and so on needed to target a recent release of the Ubuntu phone. So that's the 1504 release. So this is based on the framework system, and that's what the API is about. So this one contains actually ARMHF and AMD64 binaries, and so it takes about 500 megs each. So I have this USB key if you wanna try yourself and avoid the download. And once you do have that installed in your VM, then there are a couple of more dependencies that need to be added to this click chroot. So I don't know if you have a clear representation of the system, but so you need an Ubuntu VM, and inside this VM you have a chroot environment where we're going to do the cross build activities for the ARMHF target architecture. So this is what we put inside the chroot. And so once you're there, there is another step we recommend you take. So this is to install the pre-packaged Cordova CLI build we do. So so here is what is specific to Ubuntu right now. You can use the NPM version, but we do have a couple of patches we're maintaining because we don't want to annoy you guys with like all 4.3x things. Eventually, I should also, make more pull requests, and we'll do some archaeology, I guess, with Steve, and release a new, an ancient Cordova lib release. But anyway, because we're still on 4.3x as a stable platform, you do have this Cordova CLI package you can just install. So it install the Cordova, which is based on 4.3.1, and then you can just get started, the way you do on. So to a PPA, right? So this is a private archive where essentially I do maintain a couple of releases. I just made one, last week, and I have a new one here because this way I can support all of the new plugin naming convention, but also point to the right NPM registry because, well, the old one is now giving 404s. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, well, so you create your app, you add the Ubuntu platform. So we have 4.3.3, which is the official published release, and also I'm making this 4.3.4 release, which I'll start the vote for, well, probably before, after this talk. Otherwise, you can go to our GitHub fork and get it from here. Once you're there, and especially if you were running inside this Vagrant VM, so you need to fiddle a bit with the ADB server, and then you can just see the device appearing. We recommend you use you add an SSH key to this virtual machine, so that you can then use our special tools called Phablet Shell. You can do Phablet screenshot. There are a couple of Ubuntu specific tools based on ADB, where you can more easily manage the phone. So at this stage, maybe I should go to this VM and show you a bit of that. So
why use the CLI apt-get instead of installing NPM?
on NPM, just because of the extra patches, I'm maintaining here. Yeah, that's the only thing.
So once NPM is synced,
Yeah. So that is, once we're done with the the move to platform API, then will be just npm install, and then you're done. Currently on the 16.04 release, we have Node. Correct me if I'm wrong. Node 5 something, and then npm 3. We have
4 is stable.
but now they've gone to 6.
No, I think that we have a 4.
We're at
or something.
4.6, yeah, and npm is
That's LTS for them.
yeah. All right, so that's the Ubuntu device, so I can Phablet Shell into it, and that's, well, a regular Ubuntu system. Maybe I can improve. No, not so sure how to do that in macOS. So I'm running macOS just to show that you don't necessarily need an Ubuntu desktop. So again, if you're developing code wraps for other platforms, you can use this way.
Do you guys
Yeah.
have a simulator as well?
So we do have a simulator, but like all simulators,
Slow.
it is slow.
It's not the
Yeah.
recommended ramming,
Yeah.
but you might actually hit your header.
Yeah. So you can do that. Of course, you can use the browser platform, which is quicker.
Basically like the other platform.
Device goes over.
Yeah. And so, for example, you can find the BQ devices. They're not very expensive, so that's a very good option for developing in that case. Okay. So, well, we do have a phone. It's connected. We do have a VM. Actually, I wanted to also show the click-chroot system. So click-chroot, I can probably. So I need that's Helmi Chef F Ubuntu SDK 1504, and I should be I miss one flag, but anyway, you can via the click-chroot set of commands, you can go into the chroot environment, and from there you can also like install extra Debian packages, or you can adjust the configuration of the system inside the chroot. So generally you don't have to do that, but that's an extra set of commands you can use. If, for example, you're developing a new plugin and you need to add like specific, cute header files directly inside the chroot. All right. So running and debugging, well, no surprise. You go Cordova run -- device. So -- device is almost like the default. Initially, when we were developing the Cordova port, we were running both, on the desktop and also on phones. But well, running on an old X11, desktop, it's not so cool anymore. So most of our effort now is on making sure, the device target works, knowing that the device target is also what's going to run with the newer Unity 8 desktop system. So, which means that you can just target one like type of device, and then you'll have them running also on the desktop. So that's going to be also interesting when we look at other like desktop-oriented JavaScript frameworks like Electron in particular. Right. So what it does essentially, build the app, makes a click, sends the click over ADB to the phone, stops the application, does the click installation in the background. So I wanted to highlight the allow untrusted flag, which is used then because, well, obviously you're not signing the package when you're creating it on your desktop. However, once it's distributed on the store, then there is this, signature system that ensures only valid packages are distributed. And then it does the application launch. So if you're used to, a Linux Ubuntu system, you can't, on the phone, just go, launch a command, because then the app armor mechanism will prevent you from just running, arbitrary commands, except if you're not root. So, yeah.
I mean, it's an open phone, so you could.
Exactly.
You have to know.
But so Ubuntu App Launch is the one that essentially sets the environment in the right way, so that then your application can, execute and access the mere display server in particular. Debugging,
Yeah.
well, okay.
All the benefits from using like something on Blink and Chromium, so you have the dev tools easily available, same stuff, no differences, the same
Yeah.
goodies that comes with it.
So you're at home, you can retrieve the application logs, so you log onto the phone. We do have the application logs in that directory typically. You can see also the detailed build logs, the way you'd expect with the -- verbose system. So maybe I don't know. I haven't seen if that changed or if that type of flag is still like, yeah, for platform API and so on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's the pass-through.
This is just the event like emit system that got upgraded.
It did get upgraded, but
Yeah.
it still should work.
Okay.
I think there is a little trickiness to it though, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the platform, I think during the first refactor of that, the platform scripts got some, if you were just using the platform scripts,
Yeah.
you weren't using Cordova, it wasn't registering to configure
Mm-hmm.
properly, but I think they fixed it.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Vladimir from
Yeah.
Microsoft fixed it.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll run into that shortly, so we'll see. Plugins. Well, so we do have a couple of plugins supporting Ubuntu. We do have a couple of those with fixes, so which we host also in the Cordova Ubuntu GitHub repository. Alex just ported the Bluetooth Central plugin.
Yeah, we still work to have like the best coverage possible of the core plugins, obviously, and we try to add like I think that we miss possibly one in terms of support the file transfer, which we have to connect to the download manager service. But besides that, we support all the basic plugins, and we are actually actively pursuing like other ones, like depending on the needs. At the moment, we are developing besides the file transfer, obviously the BLE ones and all the specific ones that we could actually connect to the platform services that we saw, so that the user could, the developer could have access to all those services.
Yep.
Easily.
You're planning on upstreaming?
Yeah, the BLE one I'm going to upstream to Don Coleman.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm going to merge request my changes rather soon, and obviously the other ones like as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the goal, basically, to upstream as much as possible.
Yeah. And the reason it's not done immediately is mostly because we want to test things, and then once we're ready, then we can start annoying people about
And yeah,
real patches.
and the Bluetooth stuff is actually being also developed on the platform, so we have a few patches that needs to land before it, but it's like everything's going to land at the same time. So.
One thing I wanted to mention, the address book, we were chatting about that yesterday, so we don't support it, but I think that's a good thing, right? Where we don't have any APIs to allow applications to access the address book. Anything like this needs to go via the content hub typically, so that again the user is very specifically in control of what exactly gets transferred. So no application invading your privacy. Yeah, that's the way it, yeah.
Right, exactly. Everything's going to be after that handled by, it's automatically handled by the system. So it's like, I don't know, maybe you have an example here of how it behaves.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I have the phone is pretty far, but, so this is the camera app. I'm going to put it closer to you guys. So I decide to share a picture, for example, and as automatically as I press the share, there's a prompt here that is, the prompt is being triggered by the system. And you have then to select the application you're going to share or leave a photo with. And there's going to be a peer-to-peer communication system between the tool handled by the system in which the data that is, that the application exports is being passed down to the other application without any application knowing anything on how it's done. And everything being secured, right?
Does the other app tell the
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you're listening for something from the content hub to happen. You define yourself as, it's very declarative. You define yourself as, I am an exporter of this content type, and or I am an importer, or I deal with this kind of content type, and then the system considers you when this transaction that is supposed to happen.
So when you go back to your original app, you get notified
Yes.
share or not?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you have basically all the data so that you can basically reflect in terms of states, what happened, which
Also because it's feature on the social sharing program.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's a very general concept. So it works across the board. It's really meant to share content types like any kind of stuff that you can imagine. It's a really mitigation system.
And so Alex is one of the developers of the Content Hub system, along with Ken Van Dyne, yeah, and a few others. So plugins, what do you need to know? Well, you don't need to specify
you
the
don't need
GitHub
that.
branch anymore because I fixed something, so Cordova can go to the right registry now.
So this is already duplicated.
Again, an old Cordova release. The new one knows what to do, of course. But here you do have a list of the ones for which we do have patches not upstreamed or without pull request yet. So the geolocation one, the BLE Central, Alex just started working on, and the vibration also as well.
Those specific branches have patches and fixes that we need to upstream for the convenience of it. So put this way.
Yeah, especially so that for this workshops
And you
it
can
could
add
work.
the NPM name.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, I'm torn between what the new lib does and what again 4.3.1 was doing at the time. So typically, I think the tags, the release tags, they were not working, or they were working for plugins but not for platform. Whereas now that also works for platform, doesn't it? Or yeah, like you want to say, I want this GitHub branch with this release.
It should, I think it's
Yeah.
it should work for everything.
Mm.
It might have been a bug.
Yeah, but
I
anyway,
think it works.
we need to move to the new world, so no question. And so once you have that, and
Yeah,
if you were,
there's a small demo that is up on GitHub
Yeah.
that showcases some of the plugins that we did set up. So that it's easier for you have basically a start. It's actually branded to the Ubuntu Stallion also.
Hmm.
What's
yeah,
that?
yeah, we have like
Right, exactly.
quite a few
Pick and
things.
choose and
Yeah.
you get to experience some
So that's a simple HTML5 toolkit.
Can you write apps like in C++ or whatever?
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's the
Yeah.
not in it would be kind of so you have choices basically. So obviously we work on the HTML5 JavaScript offerings across the board. I mean we try to put JavaScript all over the place in all different places. But, I mean not specifically also in some areas not specifically related to the Oxide webview. In some other areas we offer bindings for JavaScript for developers for scopes, and we kind of some other applications that developers can develop for platform. So we try to put JavaScript everywhere in terms of alternative.
C++ is, of course, a language you can use.
One of the choice, and we have QML, which is some sort of a cute specific. I mean, I don't know if you guys know QML, but it's like some sort of a cute, cute specific language, declarative language.
Yeah, well, BlackBerry was using that.
Yeah, BlackBerry
right?
was based on heavily.
So that's the same system.
So.
And so that has, C++, QML plugins. We do also have Go as a language, which is, officially used and recommended on this platform. Yeah. Right. Of course, I mean, the plugins themselves are developed in C++. So this way you can link a lot of native code to your application. So you can use Ionic in particular to build an Ubuntu application on top of Cordova.
Did you have to add any special support?
Not that much. Not that much, especially now that the new plugin registry is supported, because they're setting up a couple of plugins at the beginning when they provision the app. So now you can mostly go with the regular Ionic command line commands.
At runtime, we need to check everything.
So yeah,
we chatted with Tim yesterday and to see if all the plugins that are necessary for Ionic are properly supported on our side. I think it's the case. So we need to validate it.
So what'd be great now is for us to add like an Ubuntu personality to the toolkit, so that people can also develop like native-looking applications. Well, I think for people developing applications, on like multiple operating system at the same time, they do prefer to have their own, look and UX. So that, of course, they can keep on doing. So normal applications runs here. Publishing your application. So for that, I'm just checking the time. Yeah. You go to the Ubuntu App Store. So your application, well, when we like build the Cordova application, we do create a click. So this is part of the build directory. So you can just take the click from there. Then we do have a submission system on our developer website where you can upload the click. This one then gets signed.
You have to
so
have
becomes a proper package. There is also an automated approval for most of the applications that are submitted via the store. There are a couple of policy groups that is permissions an application needs to use or wants to use that may require a manual inspection by our security team.
When you touch online accounts, some of the policies are like, as soon as you try to touch some sensitive stuff on the user and declare that your click is supposed to possibly have access to them, there's a more careful inspection of the package itself. So they still run through the same automatic checks on our server side, but we have an additional manual review also.
When we do build the click, by the way, and that's also valid during development, we do check the click against the guidelines, the reviewers tool. So there shouldn't be any surprise once you're ready to upload to our App Store. And again, general case is your application should be published, within a couple of minutes.
And available to any store.
Right. So typically on the device, so we do have the application scope. So scopes being, the first screens you can navigate between, and we have, various types of content like music, video, weather information, and so on. You can surface on the first screen, and applications are, one of those elements. And so from there, you also have like a search box that lets you access the Ubuntu store and look for new applications. What's next? Well, so initially, we were on desktop. We set out to run on devices and starting with phones. And now, so the big, the the target is really to extend the type of devices we support with the convergence feature and address the Internet of Things devices. So Unity 8 is has been a key element in that effort, and now it's available again on the desktop as an optional session. To rule them all, maybe this is a bit too much, but yeah, we're proud to have this system that can now span all of those form factors. When it comes to HTML applications, HTML5 applications, well, you just have to be responsive, and that's something that should be natural to web developers. And then, well, you will enjoy the benefits of Ubuntu on many devices.
It's also responsive in more than, I mean, as you look at how the markets are evolving in terms of mobile and everything, it's responsive in many different ways. So now you have different form factors also, but also different input devices. So you could like plug a Bluetooth mouse, it changes everything in terms of interaction and everything. So you have like touch screens depending on where you run. So now we have a tablet, we plug it in HDMI, everything changes. So it's like responsiveness, not only the amount of real estate that you have, but it's really in terms of how you interact with your environment that changes on you.
And so, since you're also developing for, I mean, you're maintaining Cordova for other platform, I don't know if that's something that,
Right.
I mean
it's
what you think about it?
Anyway,
Yeah.
so.
That is, if you've had issues with typically.
It's more focused on app developers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really making too many apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of plugging, you need some sort of runtime support to like tell the app that something happened from the
I would think it would be more of a plugin.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't know if WSWT is working on something like around that too. We try to follow closely the kind of like the drafts to see if at some point where we can plug in our stuff so that there's less plugins needed.
Yeah. It could be baked into the platform.
Right. Ideally, you want to have like that big as much as possible, right? And possibly plugins to fill the holes. But
In particular, so still on the convergence story, so our design team has been publishing a set of recommendations, guidelines, navigation concepts, and so on. So there are a couple of pointers to that, and you can follow the blog, and they have some interesting ideas on how we can continue here. And so to target like the world of connected devices. So I was telling you about Snappy Ubuntu Core, which is the newest member of the Ubuntu operating system family. And so what's great about it is that it's a transactionally updated Ubuntu. So it's a slimmed down version of Ubuntu.
Crosswalk light equivalent, but it's very small core with nothing around it. And then on demand, depending on the kind of app, like let's say you have something and you have a specific need for your customer, depending on the kind of application that you kind of develop, you add packages on demand to add like some sort of a web view, then you add the web view package to it. If you need a kiosk app, for example, you have the core and you need all the necessary bits to have the app. You don't have initially all the the web view stuff or any kind of like too specific package there.
Well, a Snappy Ubuntu Core system is essentially a kernel, a libc, and a set of architecture choices and security elements to arbitrate access to the system with the application if you only have one application or between applications. And just finished, there is a notion of interfaces which snap elements can define so that you can start building a system where two snaps complement each other. So it's a new way to design a system And in particular, we're doing great projects right now with people developing like drones or routers or home automation system. I'm just looking at Thibaut because he's involved in lots of those.
So it's really much like the boxes that you see, the black box being the core, and then you define what kind of stuff that you want to add. And one thing that actually came from the mobile, because what you get also free, and which is something that comes from the mobile work that has been done, is the security. So everything is done, is still monitored by the same security aspects that as it's done on the phone, and all the updates are transactional. So you add the packets, you can update on the fly. If it fails, your system won't be impacted at all. So we try to make it very secure, very safe, and for your the development work.
And initially, we also introduced Snappy for cloud workloads, right? So to me, it's also amazing to think that we're able to again address system like big cloud applications down to small devices with Snappy. So just to illustrate how all of that can work, also Alex developed this Cordova plugin, BLE plugin port for Ubuntu. So typically, we can see that from an Ubuntu phone, you can also connect to an IoT device.
At the moment, it only acts as a central, but not as a peripheral, because the stack that does not yet support peripheral, but it's going to come.
You want to do the demo?
Sure. It's like the code is not super interesting. It's just like it's really an Ubuntu implementation of what 1.9 did. The demo is not.
It is BLE.
So as a BLE, you need a BLE device, right, to publish some BLE information. So I don't know if you guys know what this is. This is the only one that I have at the moment to play with. So that's a sensor tag from TI, and it's basically what it has is it's pretty cheap. It's like $20. It's very good, like development board. Has tons of sensors on it, and very low battery consumption. So it has humidity sensors, temperature sensors, and a whole bunch of stuff that you can connect it. And we can act as a beacon too, but usually it's only on demand. It's not super stable, and it has some quirks, but it's like it works pretty well. So what I did is it's too bad that I cannot project here. So what I did is just connect to the device here in the app. The device is listed as being found. Then I try to connect to it, so it's trying to connect to the device. And then it's going to get the oscilloscope data from it. So I try to get it, and it's going to try to display it. So the data is not super stable. So this thing I try to shake up a bit. So sometimes
it moves.
So yeah, it's connected to it. So you can see that the button is connected to it. So yeah, it moves a bit depending on what I do, but it's not extremely stable yet. So sometimes it misses the updates. So that's why the demo is a bit cheap.
Yeah.
So, but it's like oh, it doesn't get more than that. But yeah, that's what it does at the moment. So it's all the BLE implementation for Ubuntu basically. So it's getting more.
Okay, wow, a demo, it worked.
Yeah, it does.
Up to the end.
It does work. It's pretty
See
stable.
that?
Very stable.
Well, okay, so I think we're, it's about time. Maybe we can, just continue discussion on, how you guys see
there was one thing though.
what we're doing.
So we discussed briefly the plugins, and so I was actually wondering how you guys select the kind of plugins that you put in the core, because for the specifics, like the kind of stuff that I talked about adding Bluetooth, so basically having feedback on the kind of environment that changes all around you. Is it something that you guys consider as a plugin, as a runtime data or information that you should add to the the basic set of plugins for the platform, or do we actually decide because if we didn't find any W3C API that we can hook into, is this is something that we decide on our own, that this is going to be the shape of the API or that kind of stuff. So because I guess it's going to be this is not us only, right?
Yeah, I think I mean on Android we haven't really run into this too much, but I know Windows is doing similar.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
eventually, right, iOS going to do the same thing eventually, right?
You would think, yeah. I don't know. I don't think we've really talked about it at all.
I think we're not really following that VPC API anymore.
That's how you feel. I mean, if something makes sense in core, we'll put it in core.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we follow nowadays.
Right.
But we don't put a lot of stuff in the core. Something like this could make sense.
It makes sense.
I think it would, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like also if like the slim part that you use to connect your stuff to it's coming along, right? It's gonna get there at some point. So those things kind of naturally would come.
I think yeah. So I think for something like that, it would be more like come up with like start a discussion on the mailing list,
Right.
and
Right.
start getting interested parties in, and start proposing some different solutions.
Sort of
Like plugins could be
APIs.
one, APIs
Right.
Yeah.
that people can subscribe to, and events that fire when things like that happen.
Right. I mean that's the idea,
Yeah.
and then you can connect to whatever. Or I mean at least be aware of something
Yeah,
that changes.
yeah. And I don't know if it lives in the platform or if it lives in plugins. I mean, those are probably two options. It can't live in tools.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys like partition.
If not every platform does it, then it probably makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it depends on how it's implemented through the platform too.
Right.
So I think it just requires discussion among all the interested parties, and from there, if there's consensus, we can move forward with it, and if it needs more discussion. Usually we can figure these things out. Like, it's just people need to come together and talk.
Won't be too much reward.
No. And maybe it makes more sense as a plugin to begin with, and it makes
Yeah, I mean possibly as
and the whole idea of
proposal.
core, the whole idea of core plugin too, it's kind of a shifty one since there's tons of plugins that are
Right.
outside of core.
Yeah, core, and people use it. I mean, they search for it. They search for repos for plugins.
Core only means that like us at Apache are really
we made it to support it.
and then we get to do the releases for it.
Yeah.
But it's probably easier to do releases outside of Apache. You just publish like publish releases.
So that we're gonna take that into
Where Apache,
consideration.
you gotta vote, you gotta
Yeah.
review it, you gotta
Yeah. So do everything as much as possible outside of Apache. When there's really no choice, bring it back to it.
I mean, so we're just adding a new plugin to Apache, what's it called, screen orientation.
Yeah, I mean this one we would
Yeah.
we would
Yeah, we
plug
need
in
to do it.
directly here.
Yeah, but we haven't added many plugins to Apache since we've been there.
Oh, really?
We're actually like trying to remove.
And the push notifications you told me you stopped. There was no point in trying, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to for right now. It would take too long to bring it on.
Yeah.
But once it's stable and then Simon can't work on it much, then maybe it makes more sense to push in
So
and
that
then
the
beginners take over.
Right,
And that's one of
exactly.
those that Apache probably would, I think, make sense for. Bluetooth probably makes sense.
I think it's
Yeah.
in terms of input devices, for example, it's gonna
Yeah, I mean the keyboard one could have possibly been one too. It just
Well,
goes iOS
we had our own keyboard and
we abandoned it.
Oh, yeah?
Well, Michael reached out to us and we just
Oh, you had the responsibility for supporting the keyboard plugin?
yeah, I think we kind of de facto took over supporting.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
You guys originally
Yeah.
kind of became our main thing.
Yeah.
And it's better for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we got so much work to do already.
Yeah, I know. I just keep saying for that's what I'm trying to delegate to somebody else, basically.
Nice try.
Just give it to Eddie.
Yeah.
You're the head of the top.
Yeah, Simon, you were searching for something to do after the push notifications.
Hey, and otherwise, I had a couple of questions.
Children make it.
We're approaching like 60 repos.
Oh, yeah.
60 repos.
Wow.
In that project.
We'll probably have like 20 active.
But otherwise, on the tooling, on the tools, also I wonder if there's something you guys think should be done for provisioning. All of the things we do with the dependencies, the click-through truth, and all of that. If that's specific to Ubuntu, or if that looks similar, like.
Yeah.
We don't have the much support.
At least you have check recs,
I
right?
think if anything, like some of the information in this slide
Yeah.
could work really well on the docs, right?
Yeah.
If you want more adaption
yeah.
to the docs,
Yeah.
you probably
Right.
should kind of handle people a little bit before getting started.
Yeah, that's the next step to
It looks like
take
there
on
are
the
quite
world.
a few
Yeah.
steps, non-standard, like little more confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have everything on for Android and Windows either. They point back to their own websites
Yeah.
on Android.
Okay. And then, yeah, there was also the notion of, well, dependencies, but that's mostly for plugins. So I think that's mostly covered in that. We do
Yeah.
have like extra Debian packages.
It sounds like you guys could do like context plugin, for instance, so you would use dependency on the content.
Yeah.
Context
Yeah,
part.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you had plugins for those, then you could essentially just
Mhm.
use them as
Mhm.
dependencies.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Then I don't know how much of the contact API.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if context is really worth it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Mm.
But
Well, yeah.
Officially, it is not. Seriously.
Yeah. Okay. Message taken.
it's not a nice thing.
And nobody supports it anyway. Yeah. Everybody dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Even Google right now, they don't wait for a standard. They say create the standard.
Yeah,
yeah.
They decided the first time in, yeah, they have the momentum, so it's different for them.
I have a question for the Ubuntu phone.
Yeah.
How expensive is it? Is it for developing companies?
That's a question for Thibault.
It's not too expensive. This one is like 250 to 280
Yeah.
euros the tablet.
Yeah.
This one is like maybe 150 euros.
Yeah.
and
This one is a great
Yeah,
little
this
device.
one is the first one that we released. This one is a really, I mean,
Small,
the camera
lightweight.
it's really a good one.
Yeah.
The phone. It's like maybe the same kind of price range,
Yeah.
just not more than that.
And
Which countries are you shipping in?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
yeah.
So like no carrier,
Apart from China.
but no carrier like agreements, like
Unlocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unlocked. And, I mean, I use it in Canada. I got mine from Spain.
can I SSH into it?
Of course, yeah, this one, the phablet shell. Right now, you want to.
I think I thought I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, there was everything you can SSH from it. So it's totally open. You can tweak it.
Well, once you have enabled developer mode, right? That is, no one
Wow,
can SSH
there's
into
two steps to
any
solve
phone. But no, otherwise we do have like community images for devices like the old N4,
Yeah,
which
old.
we use
Google
initially,
Dynamics or various like
N5 and 7. So yeah.
Very informative.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for doing Cordova.